All right, welcome back. I want to hit you up to start this segment with our Tri-State Office Furniture tweet of the night because we're going to be talking about this, so we may as well tie it in. And that is from the NFL on CBS, and they keep track, as we all do, not only of snap counts, but most pressures by a pass rusher. They did the whole league, and look at this. To your point, Chris, Cam Hayward, the stud, unblockable yesterday, 12 pressures, and then 3 of the top 4 were Steelers. It was Hayward, it was Watt, it was Ingram, who had more snaps than Highsmith. And I take that to mean that Alex Highsmith was dealing with an injury, Chris, and that Ingram was going to get more snaps. That was probably the plan. But those 2 guys on the outside were terrific. And if they stay healthy, like I said, even without the benefit of a blitz, I think that's important here because we've come to know the Steelers to be blitz people to try to put pressure. If they don't have to utilize that and they can sit back and get pressure, I don't know if you can do that every single week. Of course, it's going to change, but what a nice asset to have for a team that normally relies on blitz to get pressure.
Well, if they can get Stephon Tuitt back, Bob, he's a guy at double-digit sacks, 11 and a half last year? I mean, they don't even have their absolute best available kind of core of guys here because Tuitt's not available to them right now. The way to beat, the 2 best quarterbacks I've seen this century are Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. And the way to beat both of those guys, and we've seen it laid out countless times, is get pressure, regular pressure, quick pressure, without blitzing. You do that, you can drop 7. You can flummox the best quarterbacks. You can flummox guys that are gonna go to the Hall of Fame. So I don't think I expect it every week, but it was a really heartening thing to see. Another thought occurred to me too while watching Ingram and Highsmith do their thing opposite Watt or occasionally on the field together. One of the great things about those two as like your 2-3 pass rushers, at least from the outside linebacker position, my estimation, they give you a different style of pass rushing. I think Highsmith is still much more of a speed guy, an athleticism guy. Ingram is a raw, brute strength bull rush type of guy. I mean, one of the most impressive plays of that game is one where he draws a holding. He's got Josh Allen by one hand while he's being yanked away from him, or an attempt is being made to yank him away by an offensive lineman, and it took a while for him to let go. I think they have variety. I think they have talent. And if they have their health, I mean, this looks on paper. I don't know about you, Bob. This looks on paper to me like one of the potentially best Steelers defenses since maybe their last Super Bowl win.
You could be right about that. And again, health will be the key. They got to stay healthy. But you had mentioned holding calls. They called 6 officially on the Bills. You talk about the offensive line of the Steelers, and while it was talked about, young and inexperienced, what about them? They have, it was supposed to be a pretty good offensive line. They could have been called for 16 holds.
Yeah, there was one play in particular where I thought T.J. Watt early in the game got literally tackled as he was trying to navigate a triple team, and there's no flag, and Watt immediately gets up, kind of like me, and he's going, hey, what gives? What I actually want to see, and this is selfish because we just saw how dynamic their pass rush can be, and a holding penalty in many of these cases is as good as a sack. It takes yardage off, or it puts yardage on the down and distance, and it puts an opponent in a tougher spot. I want to see the NFL actually call it. Is that selfish because the Steelers look like they have the makings of a truly great pass rush? Sure, it's selfish. Of course it is. It was selfish when Tom Brady wanted, or Peyton Manning wanted his receivers to not be able to get mugged down the field by New England's defensive backs. But if you actually call holding in the NFL, I think defenses can get themselves a little bit more of an edge again, especially if they've got good pass rushers. And there's one more component to that, Bob, at least in my mind. I thought the NFL last year, nobody in the stadiums for the most part, you're trying to be this distraction for the populace. I think they wanted offense, and I think they wanted big numbers, and no fans made it easier for offenses to operate, and I think they swallowed the whistles on holding in part because they knew it would goose offense. I hope the league, with this sort of semblance of normalcy returning to things, also decides to call penalties like they should, because I think it'll make for a better product, and yes, again, selfishly, it'll make for a much better Steelers team because they're going to be drawing a ton of holdings.
For me, it's just like hockey late in the game. If it's a penalty, it's a penalty. You forget sometimes these officials put their whistles in their pockets, and in the NFL, you can call it, really you could on every play, but it has to be, something that's significant. I thought yesterday there were far more significant hold calls that were not called, and if the Steelers keep getting pressure like that, you can look for that flag to keep going. All right, let's go to the tweets. As I said, we're going to go into the Twitter mailbag here. Larry Peters is first with his tweet about the game yesterday. He says it was a great win, but it's a long season. The offensive line has a long way to go, and not so special teams always seems to hinder the team for so many years. Having the toughest schedule doesn't help. They will incur injuries, hopefully not too many. 10-7, maybe 11. I thought 10-7 was my pick, and I'm going to stick to that for now because I do think after you watch enough football, you realize, just like last year, 11-0 came crashing down pretty quickly there. So I think that's one of them that you have to consider. The things are going to change. It won't be that easy, and their offensive line, I thought, took baby steps forward, and I expect that to continue. You're going to have some more growing pains, Chris. It's not going to be easy for these guys. Dan Moore, man, right off the bat, a couple times, it was like Matador time, but I thought he got better as the game went on, and I would expect these guys as a group to not be great, but get better, which could help.
Well, they were better in the second half, but yeah, they can't be the way they were in the first half many more times this season for any length of time. They have to get a running game developed, and the running game's only going to be as good as the blocking. As far as a record prediction, I thought this was a 7-10 team. That's what I went with, and I had the Bills game pegged as a loss, so I automatically have to goose them up at least one win to 8-9. But now I think 9-8, 10-7, even 11-6 if they have great injury luck. They're all in play because I just had no idea that the defense would show at any point, let alone against the best offense, at least on paper, the highest scoring AFC offense last year. I had no idea that they would be able to shut a team down like this. I mean, we saw Kansas City get shut down in the Super Bowl, not score a touchdown. How often in the NFL does a defense get measured by their ability to do that to a great offense? It really doesn't happen that way anymore. So if they can do this, then yeah, I would consider adding 2-3 wins to my total. Right now, I'll stick to 8-9, 9-8 though, Bob, because I don't want to go too over the top because you know this. You know what I'm about to say is true. Tomlin gets him up for these huge games where he can play us against the world, and he's great for being able to do this. The Raiders come in here 0-1 like it seems they're going to, though, next week. Can't you see it? A sluggish start out of nowhere. What are the Steelers doing? Why do they look so just blah? And then they end up losing like 23-20 to the Raiders. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying I've seen it happen enough to not get too far out ahead of my skis on this team.
Yeah, I agree with that. Or it could be the next week with Cincinnati. Joe Burrow, he lit up Minnesota's defense yesterday at times, and, he's capable. They can be destructive. Next tweet comes from I Hate. And I hate too, but I Hate says this: everyone will see that this defense is even better than it appeared this week. Bush and Schobert are not even being talked about. The last half of the year, we had Marcus Allen running in circles out there with Spillane, at Ingram and Watt and Highsmith. Scary good. It is scary good, and that's the thing. They got to stay together, but I guarantee you there will come a time where some quarterback, they're going to face a lot of good ones, Chris, is going to pass over the middle, and you're going to see linebackers running after big tight ends. It is something that has plagued the Steelers, and there are some really good tight ends in this league. So we'll see. To me, I want to see more in the way of, running offense to occupy more time, especially on other road games they're going to have to go through the rest of the season.